It says live, so we're live. If you guys are watching this in the playback, this is my first time doing this, so please don't judge me. I am Melissa. I am here with Lisa by Remarkably Lisa. She's an awesome content creator on YouTube. So if you're looking for recommendations for books, especially romances, you need to hit up Lisa's channel because she does the Lord's work. She reads thousands and thousands of books so that I don't have to. All I need to do is just look up her channel to see what I want to read. And then I add it to my TBR list because I have become an avid reader. And if you asked me a year ago if I would be reading this much, I'd be like, you're lying. No, I wouldn't be. So
how many books have you read last year since you started reading?
I started in November, so it's not like that much. I don't know, but I started keeping track of it at the beginning of this year since like January was like a few months ago. And so far, right now, I think I'm on book 30 or 31.
That's really good. That's actually really, really good.
Yeah, I know. For me, that's a lot.
Or like audiobook? Huh? Is it physical or audiobook?
So sometimes I'll read physically, sometimes I'll do audio. Lately, though, I've been doing a lot more audio, especially if the narrator is pretty good.
Yeah.
Then I can still make it. Sometimes the narrator is not that great, and I'm like, well, I'll have to read this.
I know, it's not good. And I'm like, no, like audiobooks definitely helped me a lot too with reading, and especially with historical romances, because like it's like a picture playing in your head when you're listening to audiobook. It's like a performance, and that's what I really like.
That's what I love about it. The really good performers are really able to bring it to life. So yeah. I really appreciate that. And I'm also able to I feel like devour more books that way when I could listen to it instead of having
while you're doing other things too as well. Yeah.
Yeah, like I was running errands last weekend and I had my wireless headphone the whole time so I could listen and finish the book. But yeah, it's been a fun journey. So yay books.
I think Julia Quinn's narrator, I think she only has one narrator for majority of her books, and that narrator is really good. I don't know her name, but she's really good.
I think it's Rosalind.
Wow, you even remember the name? Wow, amazing.
I know, I'm a nerd. Rosalind something, but she's very good. Okay, I read 4 of the Bridgerton books. I read 1, 2, 3, and 8. Hello, somebody in the chat, Salome or Salome. Because I kind of go by the premise, and I like the 8th book's premise, so that's why I read Gregory's book. And then I ended up reading her spin-offs too, though. So I read the Smythe Smith, and then I read some of the other ones as well. I forgot the series name, but I read a lot of her books already as well. And then for her first books, the Splendid series, it's some other woman named Lucy something, and she's pretty good.
How do you remember? Yeah, I just found it.
I don't remember last names.
Rosalind Landor is the one that.
Landor, that's what it is. And then Lucy Rayner. Lucy Rayner, I think, did the Splendid series. If I'm not wrong. Oh, what is this? Oh, sorry, the internet. I mean,
that's your TikTok. That's the trending
star. Instagram was on.
Okay, because that's the trending star right now.
Okay, I need my notes open because we're going to try to break down this book, y'all. Okay, so we're going to try to break down the book and then just talk about our overall feelings of the book and then talk about the love story itself with Kate and Anthony and our opinions about Kate and Anthony separate from each other. And then talk about, our obsession with the show and, anything else that pops into mind, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
So the book opens up. And Anthony basically is like, I am almost 30 years old. I need to start finding a wife so that I can have an heir. But I'm not interested at all in being in love with my wife. So we know that from the get-go, he is not interested in a love match. And because he has a lot of childhood trauma from when his father passed away, and he saw how hard it was on his mom and how young his father died, he believes it with every soul, every being in him that he is also going to die young. And he doesn't want to leave his wife sad and alone. So therefore, he doesn't want it to be a love match. We'll talk more about this fear later, but that's how it opens. And then we see Kate and her family, and they come into the ball, and they already know, well, Kate already knows about Anthony's rakish reputation, and she immediately tells Edwina, you need to stay far away from him. because he's the worst kind of rake. He's a rogue. He's not good for you. But of course, and then we enter this ball, and then also the Bridgerton family's there. Colin is there, and he finds his way to trick Anthony into dancing with Kate, because Colin has already spoken to Kate, and he sees that, oh, she kind of hates my brother. It would be really funny if they ended up dancing together. So he tricks Anthony into dancing with Kate. And as they're dancing, they already are kind of like throwing insults at each other or banter. But Anthony is also a charmer, so you can kind of feel that it's also he's being kind of flirty with her as well. It's kind of like getting more under her skin because she hates this guy, but she's obviously kind of attracted to him as well. And then the next day, well, and then this is after, she tells him, you're not going to court my sister. So the next day, we see Anthony coming to see Edwina to court her, to take her out on a walk and whatnot, but she's not there. But he actually ends up bringing flowers for all three of them, for Kate, Edwina, and their mom. And as Edwina is not there, the mom suggests that Kate goes out on a walk, to take the dog out on the walk. And she suggests that Anthony takes her or goes with her. They go, and what's his name? I keep forgetting his name. Newton gets loose. There's like a whole chase that happens. It ends up with Anthony being dunked in the lake, and he is completely furious, and he gets really mad at Kate. And Kate doesn't care because she just thinks this guy is like the bottom of the barrel, awful person. So somehow that turns him on, though. And then the next chapter, he's having like a sex dream about her. But it disturbs him because he's like, why am I dreaming about this woman? So in trying to like forget about her, his growing desire, he tries to take his mind off of it with his old mistress. In this book, it's called she's called Maria, but I know in the show she's Sienna. And so they're at this ball, and Edwina is not there because she's sick. So Kate is the only person is there with her mom as well. And she's trying to hide away from Anthony as well. And he's trying to hide from her. So she escapes into this room in this house, and it's a study. And then she hears people coming in, and it's like, oh crap, it's Anthony and this girl that he's coming in here to, have a good time with. And she notices that. So then she hides under the desk, and then she is praying that he doesn't discover her. Of course, he discovers her. He sends the mistresses off, and she doesn't know what's happening. And then he kind of like tells her to get up from the floor. Like, what are you doing? Why are you invading my study? And she's like, I was trying to get away from you. And he's like, oh yeah, right. And then what happens is, as he's trying to intimidate her, he's getting closer and closer to her, but then he ends up kissing her instead. And this really like confuses Kate, because she's like, but you don't even like me. And he's like, yeah, I know. So that happens. And then after that, we're going into a country party. This time it's going to be away at Aubrey Hall. It is the Bridgerton's ancestral home. And it's like a week-long party, and shit goes down at this party, because what happened is Anthony is set. He's like, you know what? I have to stop fooling around. I just need to go and stake my claim, and like just ready to propose to Edwina. She's exactly what I'm looking for. I need to just do it. And what happens is Kate is also there with her family as well, and she made a promise to her family that she's going to try and be nice to him, because they've had like a pretty much an abrasive relationship so far. So we see them trying to get friendlier with each other, and then in comes the Pall Mall scene, in which it's a game where the Bridgerton siblings take it very seriously, and Kate and Edwina don't know how to play, but they basically say all you have to do is just hit the ball with the big mallet thing. And then we see Anthony, of course, being very cocky. He keeps trying to throw her off her game, and is trying to beat her, and he is beating her until she hits his ball with the death mallet, the black mallet, which is usually his mallet. But Colin, of course, being the prankster, he switches the mallets up because he wants to further humiliate his brother. We love Colin in the books. He's pretty funny. So then Kate hits his ball into the lake. So now the game is over, because like that's like the ball is awesome, is dopest thing that's happened in the game. So they're all like, you know what? Nothing's going to beat this. Let's just go back to the house. But of course, Anthony goes to the lake and fishes out the ball. Then Kate goes to help him. And then after they're coming back from the lake, they're having a moment of camaraderie there. And they're kind of, Anthony even asks her, do you still hate me? And then he kind of like, he's kind of seducing her in a way, because she's like up against a tree and she's kind of like short of breath, and he asks her that, and I think she just says no, and that's it. And then they go back to the house. And then that night we see, what's her name, Cressida is like bullying Penelope, being an awful person that she is. And then Antony also sees this, and Kate sees this, and then Antony actually escorts Penelope into dinner, leaving Cressida behind. And this is something that really, really impresses Kate as well, because she sees, even though all the like, hi Cynthia, the rumors of him, being a rake is true, but there's also more than meets the eye. So she's getting that glimpse of him, like family is really important to him, and he's using his, his power of being a Viscount for good. Like, he's helping people, he's not bullying people. So this is when we're seeing like the gears shift, like her mind, like he is more than what he seems. And after that happens, she can't stop thinking about him, and he also can't stop thinking about her. So she can't sleep. She goes to the library, and a storm happens. And guess what? Kate has this big, huge phobia of storms. So she ends up like having a panic attack in the library. She's like down to her knees, kind of like shaking. And he's kind of like roaming the hallways as well, checking if everything's off and good. And he notices that the library door is open, and he sees Kate, and he is like so scared for her, because I guess she is having a panic attack. So he feels like compelled to stay there with her to try to calm her down. And then they end up having a really cool, vulnerable moment, because they're opening up to each other about some of their backgrounds, like their lives and their parents. And this is another moment where we see that they actually have a lot more in common than they even realize. So then the next day, we see Kate is finally having to come to terms with the fact that she can't continue blocking Antony away from Edwina. She sees that actually he probably would be a really good match, because he's actually really nice. He's a kind person, and I have to just let him court my sister. So she lets Antony know this, and Antony is actually like, I'm getting what I want, but why don't I feel happy about it? Like, I want you, unfortunately, but you're not the right person for me, because he knows that he can possibly fall in love with her. So he doesn't want to marry Kate. So then what happens next is a bee pops out and lands on Kate, and he freaks out, because if you don't know, his father died from a bee sting. And Kate is really confused. She's like, what's wrong with you? It's only a bee sting. It's fine. Nobody can die from a bee sting. And then that's when he's like, oh, well, little do you know, people can die from bee stings. So she gets stung, because they're like literally like struggling. Like, she's trying to like get away from him, because he's acting crazy to her, like in her mind. So the bee stings her. She gets stung. He freaks out. He tries to express the venom from her collarbone, and then he's like, that's not enough. So now he's like, I've got to suck it out. So he literally is like grabbing her to suck the venom out. But it looks like he's like sucking on her boob, right? So then, of course, that's the perfect time that the moms come in. So his mom, her mom, and Lady Featherington walk in, and they see this thing that's happening. And of course, it looks like they're having like a lover's moment in the gardens. So what had happened is, now she's been compromised. He has to marry her, which is very similar to the first book. And then Kate is like, what? Are you crazy? What? You wanted Edwina. You didn't want to marry me. And he's like, there's nothing to do. And of course, he's okay with it, because he's admitted to himself that he wants Kate, but he's determined, even though I want her, I'm not going to fall in love with her. I can do this. I have the will of my mind, and I can do it. We'll just get married. So then fast forward, they get married. He's feeling worried about how he may fall in love with her. And then she's worried that, like, damn, I feel like I probably will fall in love with him. So they have a conversation. He goes to meet her so that he can give her the ring, the betrothal ring. And then he lets her know up front, I will be a good husband to you. You're going to be a great Viscountess. Just know that love is one of the things that I cannot give you. And I want to punch him in the face for saying that, whatever. So then Kate knows this. She was like, fine, I agree. So they get married. It's a very short, small wedding. And then enters the wedding night. Kate is feeling really, really insecure for the first time in her life, because she she keeps wondering, well, like, is he actually attracted to me, or is he just thinking about Edwina or whoever else? So as they are in the middle of their lovemaking, she even asked him this, and he's like so confused because for him, it's so obvious that he's so turned on by her, and it's so obvious that he desires her. He even tells her, listen, I desire you. I burn for you. I want you. You're the most beautiful woman in England. And if I have to tie you down to this bed to prove it to you, then I'm going to do it. He basically tells her like this monologue because he just wants to get rid of those awful thoughts in her head. So then they have their wedding night. It's great and amazing. And so we're fast forwarding now to like their married life. And he pretty much acts like a doting, wonderful husband. She says in the book, like, married life agrees with me. He's always like checking in on me, asking about my day. We spend every night, just having a bunch of sex. But during the day, he's actually not home with her. He always has excuses of like a lot of work, but he's actually always like in his club. He's always in his club, purposely trying to not spend so much time with his wife because, again, remember, he's trying to not fall in love with her. Until one day he's at the club and he's thinking about his wife. So he's like, I wonder what she's doing right now. So he goes back home super early, and she is there with her sister having tea. And Edwina is talking about how she thinks she's met somebody, that she's in love, and then she ends up leaving the house, and then it's just the two of them. And this is a really funny scene, and maybe we'll see it in the show, but he's that entire like tea scene that he's having with his wife, Kate, he's trying to find a way to get her on his lap so that they can start having sex. I feel it's like the most that they do. And then they're talking about Edwina and her potential suitor. And Anthony he's always like very protective and very family oriented. So he tells her, I think I should provide a dowry for her for sure. And another thing that really touches Kate, and she did not expect it at all. She kind of like stops and freezes, and then she kind of like jumps to Anthony's lap. So he didn't have to like clear out all the tea because she did it on her own. And she's just really moved by this because, for him, it's like a no-brainer. Like, of course, I would provide for your sister. Like, she's my sister too. So she's really touched by this. So instead of going to the ball, they end up staying home, have a bunch of sex as well. And then that night, I think, does she have no, what happens this night? Oh, I think this is the time that she has another one of those nightmares with the storms. And then he can't sleep at all because she's keeping him awake. But he's trying to like hold her close and close the blinds, try to make her feel safe. The next morning, they wake up. He lets her know, like, we need to figure out why do you have this phobia. We have to go ask your stepmom. So then they go to the stepmom. The stepmom tells them this entire story, like what happened to your mom, how she died, and this is why you're afraid of storms. So now that Kate has the knowledge of why she's afraid, she feels certain that she won't have another phobic attack anymore. Like she's slayed her demons, and Anthony sees this and he actually feels jealous that she's been able to fight her demons. But this is also the time that he realizes, oh shit, I think I love my wife. So he is now going through his own downward spiral because now that he has this information about he loves her, he doesn't know how to live the rest of his life. He's so dumb. Anyway, so then we fast forward to where after a night of lovemaking again, he abruptly leaves the house, and she's like, what's wrong? What's going on? Like, let me help you. Talk to me. Of course, he's a man, so he doesn't communicate. He just leaves the house. He goes off to the Bridgerton house, and his brothers find him there, and then they've been telling him, you need to go home. You need to go home to Kate. Just tell her that you love her. It's simple. And then the light bulb goes on, and he realizes, oh, I love her. I need to go tell her right now. So he goes back to his home, but she's not there because she's off with Edwina and her suitor being a chaperone. And so then he goes off to find her on horseback. And then he sees Lady Danbury. He knows that Newton is with them. And then we hear like a big like crash that's happening. Like there's like a carriage that's careening off the road, and there's like a big carriage crash. And he knows that Kate is in that carriage. So then he runs off and on his horse to go to the carriage. And of course, Edwina is fine. Her suitor is fine, but Kate is still stuck, crushed under the carriage. So he is panicking, like, like she can't die, like you can't leave me like this, you can't leave me alone, it's not your time, it was supposed to be me. And then this wakes her up and she's like, what the hell are you talking about? So thankfully, of course, she is fine. She just has a broken leg. Fast forward, they go back home, and by the way, he tells her to her face that I love you as he's pulling her from the carriage. And she's like, you've got bloody good time. And then they go off home where she is on the mends. She has a broken leg. They finally have that hard conversation. Like, why do you feel this way? Why do you think like you can't love anybody because you feel like you're going to die? So she kind of helps him through it, talking about, her own past with her parental trauma and how like he can't stop, himself from loving people or letting love in just because you think it's going to end soon. And then he says, yeah, like I realized that because I fell in love with you. And even if it is short, at least we still had our love. And then we fast forward to the epilogue. They are still married. I don't know if it's like 10 or 20 years later. I don't know. But they have like 3 kids. And on the night that he turns, I think 39, it's midnight. And that's the time that his dad had passed away. But he lives. So they celebrate by another night of sex. And it's good. Oh my God. I did that in 20 minutes.
It was amazing. I forgot everything that happened in the book, but you remembered everything. Amazing. Really enjoyed it.
I read it late last year, so I guess it's still like fresh in my mind.
And you have your notes.
If you want to read the comments, you can, because I'm so bad at doing a live and also reading comments. But you guys, win. So, what were your overall thoughts of the book?
For me personally, this was my favorite Bridgerton book of the whole series. I personally actually didn't really like the Bridgerton series. I never finished it, and I thought it was like slow, very slow burn, problematic in some areas, and it just wasn't my vibe, and I didn't like the characters. I know you mentioned Colin and Penelope specifically, like that book I did not like at all. And that's like a book that everybody loves, but then I read it twice. Once when I first read it was when I first started reading historical romances and when I first fell in love with historical romances. And one of my friends was like, this is my favorite book. I always reread it. Like, you have to read it. And I just hated it. I just thought that Colin and Penelope's relationship was off for me. And then when I reread it again, I was like, okay, it's getting better, but it's still not as hyped as like everybody else says it is. So, but this was my favorite. Like, the Viscount who loved me is my favorite relationship. It's enemies to lovers. It's hot and steamy. It's kind of like a forbidden romance because he's in love with, or he's supposed to fall in love with, the younger sister. And then it had all the attributes that I like, a heroine who is strong and capable, but also has her insecurities in regards to her appearance versus her younger sister. And then it also had our hero who was very alpha male in some ways because he's very protective of our heroine and who also wants to like be in our heroine's life, but is too stupid to realize that she's the one and that he's just letting her go by like constantly trying to push her away.
Yeah, I didn't read all of them either. I've read the first, second, third, and then I read the 8th. I feel like I may read Colin and Penelope's story just out of curiosity. Maybe if they interest me again in season 2, I may. I didn't love.
They're going to play a bigger role.
Yeah,
they have to prepare it.
I think so too. I didn't love the first book, and I actually think the show did a good job at elevating the book.
Yeah.
A much better job.
The first book was hard. Yeah, it was hard to get into.
It was, and I feel like also like you're able to, because like the book like tells you more than shows you, and obviously the show is a visual medium, so you're able to kind of like really delve deeper into the characters and like the background characters that made things richer, like adding the prince and the queen, and like that epic sex montage. I mean, come on, that was kind of steamy. And then the second book, I read it multiple times as well. And I had issues only because I love enemies to lovers. But I feel like sometimes he was like a little bit too cruel.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I was just like, well, like why would Kate even go for this? There's a certain scenes like, and I hope they change this in the show. Like, I hate their first kiss. I don't like it.
Was it like he forced himself on her?
He okay, so like he's trying to intimidate her because like he thinks that she was there on purpose when he's there with his mistress. So he's trying to intimidate her and he's getting closer to her, like intimidating, first of all. He kisses her out of nowhere. And I'm just kind of put off because he was in there with somebody else trying to forget about her. But also, he kind of like when she's trying to leave, he like throws the key at her.
Somebody just mentioned that.
Yeah.
The scene where he throws the key to her in the office and he purposely throws it to the floor, that gets me every time.
It gets me every time. It's awful.
I don't know if Flora liked it or not. The first kiss was too soon for my taste.
I don't disagree with that. And I think because of how it was done. Even like when she's asking him, like, why did you do that? He's like, I wanted to. Like, what?
I feel like with older historical romances, the vibe was always like that in the past, where it had to happen quick to get the reader's attention, to set the tone that this is the main couple that you need to pay attention to. There's nobody else. It's between Kate and Anthony, and that's it. So I think that's why it just doesn't work for us now, because we're modern day historical romance readers of old vintage books.
Yeah, and I do have to keep that in mind. It was written like 20 years ago, but I just remember like, because I know like for the fans, like this is their favorite book out of all 8 books.
Yeah.
And I'm just like I get it because Enemies to Lovers is fun, and I think their interactions, like their actual banter, is a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see that visually in the show.
Mm-hmm.
I love like a good Enemies to Lovers, but I just think sometimes he was a little bit too mean for my taste.
What was your rating overall for the book then?
My rating, maybe 3, maybe even 4, because I liked it, but like it was a lot of work to like it.
Yeah, that's how I felt with The Duke and I. Like it was, you had to finish the whole book before you can decide what the rating is, because it was so difficult to love in certain areas. And that's why I struggled so hard with Bridgerton novels, because the tone and like the characters and their choices made it so hard for me to give a firm rating. Because usually by the middle of the book, I know where the rating is going to sit. It's going to be like a 3 or a 4, or I'm going to really like it. And it's going to take a lot for me in the end to change.
Yeah, and that's fair. I think for me, like I usually wait till like I'm almost done till I know like what rating I'm gonna give it. And sometimes the ending of a book can save it for me. Like maybe like I didn't enjoy the entire ride, but if the ending is good, then like I'll get like a good rating. Yeah. So and then there were other things, like he spends the majority of the book being an idiot, and I felt really bad for Kate a lot of the times. Because I feel like by the time that they're more friendly with each other and stop hating each other, she's clearly like in love with this guy. And he is too, but he keeps lying to himself. And then when they're married, I like really feel bad for her, because he even tells her like, this is not going to be a love match. And it's just like hurtful. And I just felt really bad for her. So that's why like, for me, like for Anthony, it was like hard for me to like him. Like I like them together, but him as a character, he just has so many issues and trauma, and I get that, but it was hard to like him sometimes.
For books, I don't like irrational fears, like where characters think that like it's a family curse, it's like something that everybody knows, or like there's no scientific proof behind their fears. I don't like it, because it's just like it's very obvious for us as modern day readers to go like, that's just such an irrational fear. Like who thinks like that? But it's because like back in the day they didn't know about like allergies and how like some people are allergic to bee stings and they could actually die and being fatal. But then his whole idea that like he was going to die before he was 40 because like a bunch of the men in his family never survived past that time was just too crazy for me.
Yeah, well, apparently that is a real fear that some people have. I think like Julian Quinn put it in the like the physical copy. That some people have that fear that like if their parent died young, then they're going to die young.
Like back in the Regency time period?
Maybe even now.
I mean, for now, I feel like that wouldn't work with readers. I think right now, like we would have to have like certain concrete evidence, like maybe a disease runs within the family, and then that's when.
Yeah.
No,
Somebody
readers
said,
like
I do know some people don't like it because of his fear. It's too irrational.
yeah.
You know, like even I noticed with myself, I don't mind these heroes' hangups. Like even with the first book or the show, like with Simon being very adamant
Yeah,
about
that,
not wanting
yeah,
kids,
yeah. I get
it
that.
didn't it didn't bother me as much only because like we got to see his past trauma. So like for me, like I just like sympathize with him.
Mm-hmm.
Um for Anthony and the B thing, it was it was like repetitive. Like his fear was like very repetitive and it just like and what his actions would result from that is what I really didn't love. And I just didn't think like he always like treated her correctly. You know what I mean?
I think
Especially
yeah.
like after they get married, like she's in love with you and you're in love with her. Like stop being stupid and he's being an asshole.
Yeah, like I think like us as modern day readers and like modern day independent women we're tired of men who don't communicate. Like just open your mouth and like just say what you have like on your mind. Like don't hide behind things like like these problems would not happen if they just talk to each other about like why he's scared of bees or like why he's scared of this. But he just shies away from it all the time and I think that's the part where it gets frustrating.
Yeah. And we don't even get that conversation to like towards the end, which I'm happy he finally had. And she still kind of had to like push him to like tell me like what is wrong, like what are you thinking about these things?
Yeah.
Um,
The fact
so
that he like gave up on love too because his dad died, I'm like, bro.
yes, and it's like he knows that love existed because like he saw his
Yeah.
parents were madly in love, but he didn't want that for himself because he's so certain that he's going to die young.
Like he chose to look at the pessimist route, like that he's gonna die. He doesn't want to have those emotions. He doesn't want to hurt the people that he loves. Instead of looking at like at the time of like how positive his father impacted his life by his love with
Mm-hmm.
his
Yeah. Salome said he is so paralyzed by his fear. Sometimes it was really frustrating. I
yeah
get that. I
yeah
get that. And I guess just me being the girl, I'm putting myself in Kate's shoes, and I just really felt bad for her, especially like with the wedding night thing, because like he never like tells her that like he desired and like wanted her until she was feeling kind of like frozen with insecurities. Um, and I wonder how they'll play all of that in the show. Just because I don't want to get into the show just yet. I just want to talk about the book first. Hold on, because I've talked about this. Um, so what did you think of the whole Edwina and Kate and Anthony situation in the book?
I thought, okay, so from the blurb when I first started reading the book, I knew that he had his eyes set for the sister. I was so freaking nervous that the
Yeah,
younger sister would like Anthony and it'll be like this weird, toxic, angsty love triangle situation because
yeah,
that's no like bueno for me. Like I don't like that. I want clear cut relationships and I want like our hero not deciding between two females. I don't like I want him to be firm with his like answer of like who he likes. So I was
yeah,
so glad that they described our younger sister as like kind of like very young,
yeah.
like doesn't have a clue about the adulthood world and clearly not right for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I also like that. Um, she also ended up having her own happy ending with somebody else that she met, like a scholar, like she wanted to. And I also really enjoyed the the love and the bond that was between Edwina and Kate, because I think like those two families kind of do mirror each other, like the the Bridgertons and the Sharmas now on the show. And that's what I liked about their enemies to lovers story is like they are fighting because they are so much alike, because they are both so protective, because they're the eldest and they're the protectors. And I really enjoyed seeing that common ground between them. And that's what kind of like made the part of like the frustrations like, you guys, you're perfect for each other. Just love each other. But I really enjoyed that for sure. And I want to see if you remember, if you have any favorite scenes from the book.
Favorite scenes. I think it was the scene where like they shared their first kiss probably in the office. Like I was like, oh, Here we are, guys. Like, I'm getting some closure on that enemies to lovers angsty bits. Because, like, I knew that they were destined for each other, and I just wanted them to kind of, like, just admit it to themselves that, you know, they're ready for each other and stuff like that.
Yeah. Online, all I kept seeing was, like, people are cannot wait for this Pall Mall scene in this show. And I'm always wondering, like, what was so amazing about that? I guess
what's
because
the Pall Mall scene?
they're just playing Pall Mall. And I guess in a way, it's kind of like his way of partially, I guess it was his way of like flirting as well, because he's trying to prove that he's really good at the game, but he's also trying to beat her. And then she is really, really wanting to beat him at this game. And again, it was towards the end of that whole day that they had that they kind of have some more common ground. And it's where he asked her, you know, do you still hate me? And she's like, no. But like the fans really love that scene. And I was like, what is so special about that scene? So hopefully in the show,
more excited about the bee sting scene.
The bee sting.
Yeah.
The bee sting scene. I don't really have a favorite scene for me for enemies to lovers. I just like I live for like the banter. The banter is always like my favorite thing. Yeah.
And Julia Quinn does a great job with her dialogue in terms of witty banter.
Yeah. I think that's always fun. What else?
Have you read the Sum of All Kisses by Julia Quinn too as well?
Yes, I did.
I love that one. I don't know if you liked it. Did you like it?
I like that one too.
Yeah, it's so good. Because you know, okay, he's a D-bag, like sometimes, like, because he's so mean. But then he like is just grumpy. Like he's not like directing it to her.
He's more like stoic because he's grumpy because he's depressed. Like
like anybody would be mean, but then like, and then she just keeps poking the bear, and it's just so cute. I love that one.
I love that one. I think I read that like twice. It was cute.
It was so good. I highly related to the girl too as well because she's so dramatic, and she was just like, I gotta die. Like she's like, I gotta die. And then he passes by and hears her complain. I think she's like the worst. It's so cute.
Yeah, I like that one. See, that's for me. That was like a good like enemies to lovers because he isn't like so mean to her. He just thinks she's being dramatic as well.
Yeah, exactly. It was a nice balance that Julia.
Yeah, I just think like Anthony probably has a really strong personality. So it kind of came off as like kind of abrasive sometimes and not as romantic for me. But I still like enjoyed their interactions and like the sexual tension because that's always fun to read.
Yeah, definitely. Like some of these characters didn't age well.
Yeah.
Because we're just different now, man. We're just different readers. We just want more from our heroes. We want open communication. We want more pining and more, explanation towards their actions.
I agree. I love a pining hero. I love when I love reading when the guy falls first and he's pining. Yeah, I just recently read a contemporary like that, and I was like, "Oh, this is my jam. This is amazing. This is great."
When he falls first, yes, that's a great trope.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the show now?
So lots of people have commented and say that they don't like the depiction of Anthony in the show, and I agree.
I agree. In season 1, he's not a great guy.
I wasn't rooting for him at all.
No, what puts me off is the whole I'm trying to sell my sister off to this creep, and
then he goes to the stupid clubs and has a mistress and everything. I'm like, bro, you're gonna fall in love with Kate soon. Can you get yourself together? So they had to keep making him into this playboy character, and I was just so disgusted by it because he is. Yeah,
he is.
But I'm disgusted by it. You're just come on.
Yeah, and even though when guys are rakes, I also don't want to see it. So I appreciate one, for example, Simon is a rake, but we don't see him get with other people in the show, because when I watch and read a love story, I like to focus on the two main people. I don't want to see the extramarital, affairs or the other girls. So I'm hoping we don't see him be rakish in season 2. And hopefully, it starts off with him right away. I need to find a wife,
Yeah. In
Yeah.
season 1, it made me feel like Anthony was actually in love with the mistress, which threw me off too as well.
Which
Because
which
I
I
don't want that to carry over to season 2, because then it becomes a love triangle. It becomes messy. It becomes this dramatic show.
yeah. Yeah,
And I
I
know
definitely
she's gonna come in and destroy this relationship. I know she's gonna do it. Like every show needs a villain, and she's the villain clearly. But people feel bad for her. People actually loved Sienna, and I was like, bro, she's
I
annoying.
was like neutral. I mean, again, like I feel like she kept going back for more of the heartbreak. Like you see that he's not trying to bring you around his family. That's for a reason. Um, and I think I definitely got the impression that he did love her, especially at the end when she breaks up with him. He got pretty emotional and angry. And I think that's what kind of like sets him up for season 2. Like, oh, you see, proof love is horrible. I don't want to have to love my wife because I don't want to have to deal with this messiness. So I'm also interested in that to see how they, because there's like book stuff, there's show stuff, and I want to see how they kind of like start him off on his journey in season 2 and like how it ends up being, because I think there's a lot going on there with his dad trauma and also the trauma of a burned, failed relationship that he had. So, but they do have a lot of work because obviously he was, pretty sexist in season 1. He wasn't communicative. He didn't care about what his sister wanted, and he was very arrogant as well. But I do like that he is actually protective and loving towards his family. So he does have some good stuff about him. So I'm hoping we see more of his vulnerable side though in season 2, for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then like with the whole exposing of who Lady Whistledown, is it Whistledown or Whistleton?
Whistledown.
Whistledown.
Yeah.
But then they don't talk about the dad and the bee, and then we just keep seeing the bee's like image everywhere as a symbolism.
I know. It's like, well, isn't
Why
the bee
like
the
bad biggest thing in the whole show?
I know. It's like one of those like Easter eggs for fans of the books, but
yeah,
it's kind of a weird Easter egg because like the bee kind of represents like a sad event.
Yeah. And then they're trying to like, I think like fan theories are saying how like the bee is flying everywhere because it's like watching the whole family and stuff like that.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Do you also think that they're gonna go for like season 3, season 4, season 5, or do you think they're gonna try to squish multiple books in season 2 and then multiple books in season 3? Because I think like everybody was saying like there's no way there's gonna be like 8 seasons of a show.
I mean, I kind of think there won't be 8 either, only because
so
historically, historically, Netflix doesn't do long running shows like that.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't think there'll be 8.
And I think the actors and actresses will be like, bye, I'm going to something bigger.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I think maybe they'll set up like I see people talking online a lot about how they'll set up Benedict's story for the 3rd season in season 2. I feel like that could be kind of cool, seeing like the last episode, like him at the ball and he sees this chick or whatever. I did like his book too as well, even though there were some problematic things, but it was written a long time ago. But I liked his book. So I want to see more of his vulnerable side, and we keep seeing like a lot of like clips and pictures of Kate, and she's very like strong and very independent, and I hope we get to see more of the vulnerable, because I think that's when they actually bond and fall for each other more, is when they are able to share that vulnerability with each other. Salome said she hated it. You hated his book? Tell me why you hated his book. I didn't like certain things that happened, but I thought it was a cute love story. It is weird though, like it's like the only one out of all of them that has like a fairy tale trope. I wonder what was Julia's thinking behind that. I didn't get Anthony and her in season 1. Yes, he was a rake, but his character was so different from the book. I didn't understand how he was in love with her. I feel like in season 1 we kind of see the whole like class difference trope with them. And he's really struggling stepping up, being the man of the house, and he doesn't really want that responsibility. But he knows that he has to be the man of the house, but that means that he can't bring around a mistress to pretend that like they can be together. So he's all kinds of fucked up in season 1, and he'll probably will be for the majority of season 2. So that's why I can't wait to see him grow and see where they take it. And I hope they make that transition of him of them being in love with each other feel realistic and natural. Because I think a great thing they did in season 1 was that Simon and Daphne actually become friends first. And then you see like the little looks and touches and like the pining and the longing and the lusting in between. So you get to see that grow, and then you still get like the lust things with like the dreams. So like you see that tension. So I think they did a really good job of like building up that tension in season 1. So I hope they continue doing that natural build so that the love story, especially for enemies to lovers, like to make it believable, like people who hate each other now love each other. Hope they make that believable the second time around as well. For sure. I didn't like that either, Salome. That's the part that I didn't like, is the kidnapping. He kind of like blackmailed her. Spoilers for book 3, y'all. He kind of like blackmailed her into coming with him, which I didn't love that part because he didn't really give her a choice. And we want our choices as women. Benedict's book was the first one I read from the series, and I loved it. I now see issues with it because I've heard the issues everyone else has with him. Still love it though, but not as much. Yeah.
I forgot. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, but I forgot why I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. And my review on Goodreads is not helpful at all. Love this for me.
Love this for you. Yeah, like he meets her, he saves her, and he falls in love with her, and he wants to take her back with him to London, but he's not giving her a choice. He's like, well, if you don't come back with me, I'm gonna tell the magistrate that you stole from me. So he kind of like essentially does kidnap her to go into him. So it is kind of like an issue because she didn't have a choice. Yeah, so then there's that. There's like the only thing. Hopefully we'll hear casting about that soon.
Okay, and then like I don't know. I also didn't like the actor in Bridgerton for Anthony. I didn't think he was attractive. Am I just rude?
I think he's pretty attractive. Of course,
his sideburns are too long, dude. Like I was just like, what is
they
this?
Were. He was like,
please cut them. And I think he looks better now in season 2 because his hairstyle is better now. It's shorter. It's well.
I think they heard the fans because he looked like Wolverine in Regency England.
Is that what people said?
I mean, to me, he looked like Wolverine because they were
like a Hugh Jackman.
Yeah. I definitely think he's good looking, but when watching season 1, it was really hard to tear your eyes away from Simon, who was like,
I know Simon was too good looking. I was like, I was like fanning myself. And, all credits to with Daphne, like the actress Daphne too. I feel like she's so beautiful. She's so pretty. She's so elegant, and Kate's beautiful too as well.
Kate is very beautiful. So is her sister Edwina is very beautiful. So you haven't seen the trailers at all for season 2?
No, and I prefer not to because I don't want any freaking spoilers whatsoever. I just want to dive into the show.
That's amazing. You have a lot of discipline.
Oh yeah, it's very easy for me.
Simon is gorgeous, Flora. Yes, I agree. Yeah, send you guys' thoughts about what you want to see in season 2, what your thoughts are. Because we know that they love dramatizing things for the visual medium that is TV, I am worried about this possible love triangle amongst the 3. I am. That's why like I'm keeping my expectations, like I'm not getting too excited because I feel like they're trying to like play up this triangle, which when reading the book, funny enough for me, it didn't feel like a love triangle. And I think it's because like Edwina is never really like,
she's young.
She's young and she's not in love with the Viscount either. Like,
yeah. And he was just like, I'm doing this for duty. So you never were afraid that he actually was falling in love with her.
Yeah, exactly.
We discussed this before the live show, but do you think it'll be as popular as the first season? And I personally feel like it'll drop off. Like maybe like the first couple of episodes will be like really high hit views and then people will give up. Because that's usually what happens, you know?
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's like the natural thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think for season 1, what really helped it skyrocket was the word of mouth. Like you kept seeing it online all the time.
Yeah.
The TikToks and the memes and the Twitter.
People got curious because everybody was like, what is this Regency show that everybody's talking about that everybody likes? And then it obviously also helped with those like modern music turned into orchestra string music. And then like that helped because people who weren't used to Regency time period pieces, they hear things that they hear on the radio and they're like really liking it.
Yeah, and they're actually bringing that back.
Of course they will.
We're gonna hear more of the orchestral versions of the pop songs, and the creator like already shared like which ones are gonna be covers.
I didn't see any of them.
Yeah, so that's gonna be cool. I won't spoil it for you, but I like the selection. What was I gonna say? Yeah, so I'm just worried about that. I just feel like dramatizing the love triangle, because it's like if you're gonna make Edwina actually fall for Anthony, like how are we supposed to like not feel bad for her when Anthony actually goes with Kate? I think that's gonna suck for Edwina then. So
I don't want to be like you're tearing it apart, like the whole sister relationship and how like strong their bond was. You're gonna like watch it fall apart, and I'm not sure if I'm mentally ready for that. That's like some angsty emotional stuff that we have to deal with.
Yeah, I don't want it to get that messy.
I know. I want like simple, you know, keep it together between the two characters, have that conflict and call it a day. I don't want like the whole family involved.
I agree. That's what I hate. Which is why like in books, like I hate like the dead lovers trope. Like when like they spend the majority of the time feeling guilty over their dead wife or husband while they're falling in love with the current person. Because I feel like there's like a ghost there that's like never going away. And I just
rather book in that series like that, right? Like in the
Bridgerton. Yeah, I think the Francesca book, and I haven't read it.
Yeah. Okay, what's it called? Yeah. Let me look for it. Yeah. Romantic? No, To Sir Philip with Love.
No, the sixth one is something wicked. When he was wicked.
No, but to Sir Philip with Love.
Oh, I think he also has.
His wife died. His wife died, and then she's like writing letters to him, you know, out of comfort, like to comfort him, and then he invites her over, and then she's like, he's still nervous about her because his wife died, and he doesn't want her to die.
Is he spending his majority of the time feeling guilty over falling in love because he has a dead wife? I just hate reading that.
He's more so like cold towards her, and then she's like, why the freak did I leave my home for you? And she's like annoyed at him because it's like, you're not who I thought you would be based through your letters. And then he goes, I better through letters because I have time to put together my thoughts, but when I'm talking to you in open dialogue, it's harder for me. And then on top of that, he's like a single father, and he has 2 children who are traumatized by the mother's death because it happened so suddenly. Also, like I think like trigger warnings for depression and like all that mental health illness stuff.
Yeah.
So it's definitely harder and heavier, but I liked it.
Edwina was never in love with Anthony. I'm hoping they don't change that in the series. I see a lot of trailer reactions to season 2.
I really like how they switched it up with the whole plot line where the queen is like interracial, and then therefore everybody who is a different race are on the same level of like class, and there's no like racism and there's no like anything. It's just pure, we're all humans. And like I like that because like it's beautiful. Like everybody just is there, like we're all represented in the show.
Yeah. And when I first watched the show for season 1, I remember thinking, oh, this feels like I'm watching like the Cinderella with Whitney and Brandy, because I remember watching that movie like back in the day. Like there were so many different races, but like it was never a thing or questioning. You just like accepted it because it was just like living in this fantasy world. And I really enjoyed that about, I mean, honestly, it's kind of like it's part of the reason it pulled me into watching, because again, like I don't really watch period pieces, but I saw like pieces of the trailer because, you know, you're on Netflix and you're scrolling. And I was like, oh, There are Black people in here that are not playing slaves. Bet. I'm gonna check it out.
I saw Asian girls in the show, and I was like, wow, Asian people in American television, very hard to see. I was like, wow. And then it's like, and then now Kate is South Asian, and then like, you know, it's just amazing. It's great. We get to see everybody in the show and feel represented, and it's no longer like a you know, one of those old vintage timepieces about race and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy that part, along with the pop song covers. I just think it's like a fun way to kind of like bring in the audience that loves the genre and modern as well for people like me who usually don't watch the period stuff. Like it just made it feel fresh and fun, and it keeps me coming back for more.
And it's like it introduced people like you to historical romance too, because you like nobody ever thought of how historical romance was this really like grand romantic world where there's balls, there's dances, there's a lot of like
steamy.
Yes.
Steamy books.
It's different. It's a different type of steam. It's slow burn. The steam is like it's written in a way that's very like poetic, different from like contemporary romances where it's like sometimes very hard, crude, and like rushed, which is like good too, but it's like historical romances, different vibes.
Yeah. And I think reading the historical romances sometimes feels like fantasy. It's not the genre of fantasy, but it feels like one because like you're kind of being swept up and escaping to like a different time and reading these people's journeys. And there's always so much like drama or trauma, like this, you know, like the damaged heroes and the pining. Like I'm like, I am here for this. This is actually like a fun time.
Yeah, like a lot of people read fantasy novels to escape into these different worlds, and I'm historical romances to escape from different worlds. Yeah, like it's easy to imagine because it was in the past and it's life in the past, so we know it's realistic. So it's like contemporary for me too as well. But I don't have cell phones in the story. I don't have cars. I don't have any of these weird distractions. I just have a couple frolicking in the fields, and it's just you know.
Yeah.
Exactly. People are also saying that they want, you know, exploration of queer storylines in the show too as well. And I think I remember correctly that Anthony has a friend that is queer. Was it in the show? It was in the show where like it was like two artists and they were drawing each other, and then they found.
Oh, I remember like Benedict makes friends with an artist dude. And I remember thinking while watching it, like, because he's like in like this pleasure house and it looks like an orgy, and it looks like he was gay or bisexual, which, you know, cool. And that was before I thought, I mean, it was before I found out that there's books and that he also has a book, and then his love story is with a woman. But who knows in like, you know, like what they'll change and whatnot. But yeah, if they do introduce like a queer love story, it probably maybe like with new characters as well. That can also be
I don't think they will like destroy the OG couple that have been written, but they could explore side characters with the queer story.
I think that's more likely is what they'll do, like explore it with the side characters as well and just make that world like more rich. But so season 2 is premiering in 2 weeks, and I will be honestly, I'm gonna try my best to watch it in one day. I'm not gonna lie, because I'm just that obsessive and compulsive.
It's easy too. They put it on a Friday. What are you gonna do on the weekend? Nothing. Just go, just watch.
Yeah, well, I'm like, unfortunately and fortunately, I'll be traveling that weekend, so that's why I'm gonna attempt to wake up early on Friday before my flight to try to watch most of the show.
I'm jealous of people who can, you know, take the time off to watch it, because I'll be working, obviously. So like I just like suffering.
I know, so you have to stay like off the internet until you're off from work that day.
Because there will and then I get jealous because people are watching it before me, and I'm like, stop. I want to watch it with you guys too.
I know.
FOMO, fear of missing out.
Having watch parties is always fun.
Mm-hmm.
Ask for the day off. I support you, Flor L. So I think in 2 weeks after I watch it, I may do a stream or something so that we could talk about the show. Maybe Lisa will come back. Maybe we could invite some more people because I'm just like that nerd. You know, like everyone like goes off about like Marvel and DC and Star Wars, and I always wish that like there were like more channels like doing this type of stuff for other types of shows that are not comic books. So yeah, hopefully I can do a live again after the show. We'll have like a big slumber party via the internet and talk about the show. Talk about how an idiot Anthony's being, talk about Kate and the balls and the music. Oh my god, the music, even like besides the pop covers, the music by the composer Chris Bowers is so beautiful, and he's like the other superstar of that show for me. But yeah, that's just me being a music nerd. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you're watching this on the playback, leave the comments. Let me know your thoughts on Viscount Who Loved Me, your comments on Anthony, Kate, what you hope to see in season 2, and hit me up on my Instagram. And I will leave all of that fabulous information below in the description. And thank you to Lisa for doing me a solid because I am a huge fan of your channel. I love your channel. Again, you
Oh,
are
I enjoyed my time here.
You're helping me out building up my TBR. So thanks so much for being wonderful and doing this. Thank
Thank
you
you
guys in
for
the comments for
inviting
tuning
me.
in. No problem. I had a pleasure. So yeah, see you guys next time.
Yeah, bye.